His Holiness Pope Peter II lies on his deathbed. You are among the few cardinals he trusts to serve as his successor, but you have to earn it by performing good deeds. To complicate things, the other cardinals won't go down without a fight. They'll do everything they can to sabotage your every move. Pay them back in kind. Welcome, folks. Today, the Hungry Gamer is doing a Kickstarter preview of Pope or Nope, designed by Bryce, Doubravsky, AJ Gonzalez, Jonathann Lackey, and Ryan Brown. Now, Pope or Nope is a fast-paced, take-that card game with a holier-than-thou theme behind it. So before we get started, let me go ahead and set up the board for 3 players. The game itself actually plays 3 to 5, but I've set it up for 3 for a quick example of how it works. Now, this game is playable for 2 to 6 players. As I've already mentioned, I have it set up here for 3, and you play to 7 points to win the game. Now let's just very quickly go through how you actually achieve these points. Now each player will have a hand that has either special cards like this, draw 2, and I'm sure there'll be some others in the other 2 hands which I'll show you, or deed cards, which are the ones that have these pure numbers on them. And as you can see here, I actually have a 1, 2, 3, and a 4, which are all the different types of deeds that you can get. The way you win the game is by completing good deeds. And as you can see, these are the good deeds, and if you have one left in your play space at the end of the turn, you have achieved a point. So I'm going to put these down face up because it's only me here and we'd like to see what's going on. And we'll look at this other player's hand here. Now, this player here has a reduco, which is the Latin for reduce, and what that will do is it will reduce the number of someone else's good deed by 1. And that'll become apparent why that matters a little later on. We have a cancello, which cancels any card that has this symbol on it. And then we have a cross. Now what this does is this undoes someone else's good deed. If you remember from the little spot at the beginning talking about what you're doing in the game, you are trying to be the one to complete the most good deeds in order to become the new pope. Now you can do your own good deeds, but then you can also undo other players' good deeds, and that's what that does. This player has 2 good deeds of their own. And our last player also has a cancello, has a Pope card. So what this is it is basically a wild good deed. There's an opportunitas, which allows you to do a second good deed, and a cross of a 2 and a 3. So let's go through and see how a round works. So to start the round, everyone draws 5 cards, which I've done, and then everyone gets to play a single one of their good deeds, and they play this face down. And here, this first player, I will say, will play their number 1 face down, and the rest of the cards just go back to their hand. Over here, we will say we'll play the 2 face down, and over here we will, well, we only have one choice, so we will play the 3. Once everyone has placed their deed, everyone flips, and they place their deed out in front of them. I will turn it this way so we can see a little better. And then in turn order, and you determine your turn order by, in the full game, you have a first player token which will get passed around the board as you go. It's worth saying that right now that I'm still playing with the prototype version, there may be changes as we go on. I don't actually have that token. I did not actually have a rule sheet. I just have one, a PDF, so there may be changes as we go on. It's just worth noting that right now. But for now, we will say that right here, I am the first player. And you take turns going around the table, playing a card either on yourself or on one of your opponents. The round ends when either everyone has passed all the way around or everyone has run out of cards. So, as I mentioned before, this is what we have. So I'm going to go ahead and do this here. I'm going to play my draw 2 and get some more cards to see what I can get. And so I will discard, and I will draw 1, and I got another good deed, and 2, and yet another good deed. And that is the end of my turn. And we go to the second player, and what we will do here is my second player will cross my good deed. So he will play the cross card right there, which means I now do not have an active good deed out on the board. And then the third player will also do a cross and cross the second player's good deed. And that is the end of their turn. Then it comes back to the first player, and as you can see, it starts to pick up as you go around. Now, what's happened here is I've been crossed, so I do not have an active good deed. And the only way you can fix that is either with the cancello, which would get rid of that, or you can play another good deed of one number higher, or of a higher number, I should say. So I'm going to play my 2. And now I again have an active good deed, and that is the end of my turn. And we come back over here, and this player is going to use the cancello to cancel this cross. We take both of these cards, and they're discarded, and now he has a good deed that is active again. And we come to the third player, and the third player is going to go ahead and play this Opportunitas. Now what this means is the third player is going to have a chance to play another good deed, which means they could earn 2 points at the end of the round. And so they just place that out, and that's the end of their turn. And then it comes back here to me. There is nothing that I can do at the moment, so I will pass. Comes over here. What this player is going to do is, just for the sake of argument, for understanding, this player will take their Reduco and play it over here. And so what that means is that this 3 is now actually a 2. It doesn't do this player any good right now, but what it could do in a full game is if I happen to have a cross of a 2, I would now be able to cross that later on. The other thing it would do is if that was a 1, it would make it a 0, and then it is not actually a good deed after all, and therefore is worth no points. And we'll come over here, and I'm going to go ahead and use my Pope card and play it on top of my Opportunitas, and now this player has 2 active good deeds. Then it comes back here. I still have nothing I can do, so I will pass. And here, this player only has 1 card. They will pass, and then clearly this player would also pass. That's the end of the round. And as it turned out, all of us wound up with active good deeds. So this player receives a point, 2 points here, and 1 point here. Now, it is important to note that the actual number, or Pope, that you have on your card at the end of the round does not matter. They're all worth 1 point. And the only other thing that's particularly worth mentioning is the game is called Pope or Nope. And we've seen the Pope card. I'll pull it up here and get a better shot of it. There is also the Nope cards. And let me see if I can find one quickly for us. Here we are. And here you see your Nope card. And your Nope card is basically a wild negative card that can cancel anybody's deed that they have. And so that is the game. That's all there is to it. I will also point out that the game does come with a papal mitre for the current Pope, the winner, to wear, which is, quite silly, but it's also kind of a lot of fun, and you can make whoever wins have to take a picture with it. So really, did they really win? Maybe not. Okay, so let's dive into what do I think of this game. Overall, I think this is a very interesting game. I really like the theme. I think it's probably, sadly, very true to life. I know many people like to pretend that the papacy is very holy and it's only about religion and doing good, but those of us who are a little more cynical, we all pretty much think that there is a lot of politics going on. If that offends anybody, I'm sorry, I just happen to be a little bit cynical about that kind of thing. I think it's kind of cool that we have this take that game that is based in something that should be good, that should be holy, and that's just something that I haven't ever seen before. I also like this idea of that you start out playing your deed, and everyone gets a chance to do that. And then from there, that is what you're playing on, and you're either trying to keep your own deed alive, or you're attacking someone else. And while, yes, most take-that games do have things where you can buff yourself, or you can attack someone else, I've just never seen it quite done like this, so I think that's actually pretty cool. So what else do I like about this game? I also like most of the art. I think the back of these cards here, I think it's just stunningly beautiful. I really, really enjoy it. I think these cards here, they're nice, they're simple, they're clean, they're easy to read. I really like this Pope here. I think that, again, I just think that a lot of this art is really good. However, I do think that there are a few misses in the art as well. I think it has the opportunity to have amazing art. However, even though these are clean and easy to read, there is a lot of dead space around these. So I would like to see some of this beautiful design work kind of spread out. And again, this is a prototype, so it's certainly possible that it might. I will say, I do think that this one here is a miss. It just says nope. I think there could be a little more on the nope cards, especially because everything else just feels different. This just looks like nope on a card. And again, it might just be that this is a placeholder card. I'm not fully certain about that. And I also enjoy that this is a fairly simple game to play once you get into it, and it doesn't take very long. It's a pretty solid filler-length game. Now, I already talked a little bit about how I think there could be more of the art. Let's talk about some of the things that I think are just not quite perfected yet, that need a little more work. And the first one of these is, when it comes to these cards here, yes, it does seem pretty obvious once you know this means reduce, that that's what this Latin phrase here means. However, if you don't know that, you have to go to the rule sheet and dig it up and find it. And that's just a little bit cumbersome. I think the game would be very well served with just a very small player aid that says, hey, this is what you do on these cards, and after you've played a few times, you don't need it anymore and you'll certainly know what's going on. Or it could be somehow written onto this card. I think the player aid's probably a better way to go, but I think either would work. And that's the same when you have your Cancello and the Opportunitas and so on and so forth. The next thing that I think needs some work is the rule sheet itself. Now, I only have a digital version, so I can't actually show it to you, but I will say I had a very hard time figuring out exactly how this game worked when I read it. I wasn't sure at the beginning if you had your own deed down here, or if it was one deed played in the middle and everyone was playing deeds on top of each other. It just wasn't really clear to me. I think the rule sheet needs to have a little bit of a revamp, so it's a little more clear how the round works. Maybe have some more diagrams in there of how each turn works, or maybe have written out a sample turn, something like that. I think it's a very easy fix, but it's one that is certainly necessary. And then the only other thing that I will say, and this came up when we were playing, is that sometimes you wind up as a player around the table with just a lot of downtime. I did find once or twice that as you're drawing your 5 cards at the beginning of each round, sometimes you had no deed, and so you were just waiting to see if you could do something to the other players, and every once in a while you literally sat there and did nothing the entire round. Now, the rounds aren't very long, and so it's arguable whether or not that's a big deal, but it is something to note if you're thinking of backing this game. And the only other thing that struck us as odd, and I think it's the way the game's intended to be played, so that's fine, but it just seemed a little bit odd to us that a deed of a 2 is worth the exact same amount as a deed of a 4. It kind of seemed to us that, if you get a 4, then you should get more credit than the other players, or maybe you should be the only one that gets credit. Now again, that would slow the game down, so that's something to keep in mind. Is it worth slowing the game down to have something like that in there? I don't really know, but again, it's something that we thought about and stuck with us. All in all, I think this is a very interesting and unique feeling Take That card game. One of my favorite games of all time is the Red Dragon Inn, which is a Take That card game, and this feels nothing like that. It is completely different thematically, and I do actually think that this does a pretty good job of landing on that theme. After all, these very clearly could come right out of some papal text, the way these numbers look and with the design around all the numbers, and I think that's super cool. I think it has the potential to have gorgeous artwork all throughout. I think it is very interesting thematically. I think it's a quick game. I think the rule sheet needs a little work, and you just should know that it is possible with the draws that you might wind up, for all intents and purposes, sitting out for a round. So that's it, folks. That is Pope or Nope. They have not decided what their official Kickstarter launch will be beyond the end of May or early June. So just keep your eye out, check it out on Board Game Geek to find out when that's going to launch if you're interested. As always, if I made any mistakes, please let me know and I will post the corrections and the Klingon subtitles. If you have any comments on things that could have been done better for this preview, please also put those in the comments and I will take those to heart for the next preview that I do. Speaking of the next previews that I do, I have plenty of reviews and previews coming up, lined up, practically halfway through the summer right now. So if you enjoyed this and are interested in seeing more, please go ahead and subscribe. In addition to more videos, I'm going to be doing a giveaway in the next couple of weeks to give away some of the additional copies of games that were sent to me specifically to give to my subscribers. As always, thank you very much for watching and have a wonderful, wonderful day.